Welcome to the Best Team Wins podcast with Adam Robinson. He's talking to today's industry leaders and entrepreneurs about the people side of their business.
Welcome to the Best Team Wins podcast, where we feature entrepreneurs and business leaders whose exceptional approach to the people side of their business has led to incredible results. My name is Adam Robinson, and for the next 25 minutes, I'll be your host as we explore how to build your business through better hiring. Today on the show, Armir Harris is the founder and CEO of Shofur. Shofur, founded in 2013, is bootstrapped and currently has 35 employees. Shofur was listed at number 21, on the Inc. 500 list of fastest growing private companies. And my friend, you are looking good on the cover of this year's Inc. 500. Pretty awesome. So welcome to the show. Really excited to dig in.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All right. So what was it like? I got to ask you, what was it like being on the cover of Inc. magazine? I mean, for me, that would be like the biggest bucket list item of all time.
Yeah. So I actually didn't know I was on the cover. I flew out to LA for a business meeting and I scheduled a photo shoot with Inc. And the photo shoot was taking a very long time and I was getting a little frustrated because they wanted the perfect shot and it was taking about 2 hours, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So then finally at the end, I said, what is this even for? I don't even know what this is for. Why am I getting, my photos taken for 2 hours? And they said, oh, this is for the cover of Inc. And then I just, had a big smile on my face. And I actually think right after that, they got the perfect shot.
Yeah, you bet they did.
Yeah.
It's so funny how your perspective changes when you realize what you're actually spending your time doing.
Exactly.
Very cool. Well, congratulations. What an awesome experience. Well, listen, we're excited to hear about your experiences on the people side of your business. And so, this is a podcast listened to by entrepreneurs and other founders. And so we're excited to learn from your experiences there. Before we dive in, give us 30 seconds on Shofur and what you guys are up to.
Yeah, certainly. So Shofur is a bus aggregation platform. So what we do is we aggregate bus companies across the United States. We have over 1,000 bus companies on our platform right now. And unfortunately, this is an industry where it's pretty archaic and antiquated. There isn't a standardized software that everyone uses. So it's difficult to get transparent information. There's a lot of information asymmetry. Most people don't shop for buses on a regular basis, so they don't understand the market that well. They don't really know what type of bus they're getting or what kind of driver they're getting. So we help aggregate all of that data and we match a buyer to a bus company. And that's essentially what we do.
Excellent. And if listeners want to learn more about the business, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, the best way is for them to go to shofur.com. That's SHOFUR.com. There's live chat on there, or they can call us 24/7. There's a 1-800 number, and we have a call center that's staffed 24/7 as well.
That's great. And so Kristen, our producer, who helps us organize some things internally here at Hireology, we have an annual offsite where we bus people from downtown Chicago out to suburban Chicago to a campus at a former college where we do our annual kickoff in January. And we always struggle mightily trying to figure out bus transportation. So, sir, we're going to give you a shot. So I think they're digging into tree. We're going to give you guys some business here. So I look forward to experiencing that.
Awesome. Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about the people side of your business. Take us back to 2013. And in the founding of the company, not necessarily from a business model perspective, but from a people perspective, what was step one for you when you were putting the team together?
Yeah, so I actually started the business by myself. I never really started a company before. And it was difficult. There were a lot of mistakes that I made, and I just learned along the way from those mistakes. The first person I hired was actually a young lady named Nicole, and she's still with us today. She was our first employee. And after that, the business grew a lot. We had exponential growth almost, and we had the need to hire more and staff up. But along the way, I didn't make the best hiring decisions, nor did I make the best training decisions. I didn't really have a training process in place. I didn't have anything that was formal. So I just hired people on an as-needed basis. Someone would come to apply, and they would say, "I need to put in a 2-week notice," and that didn't work with me. I said, "Well, no, I need you to start tomorrow. Can you do that?" So it was very informal, and I kind of polished it along the way, learned from my mistakes, learned what worked and what didn't work, and now we have a pretty smooth recruiting process in house.
Let's talk about some of those early mistakes. You mentioned training and you mentioned hiring. Tell us about some of the, thematically, what were some of the hiring mistakes that you've made?
Yeah, so one mistake that I made is that I hired strictly based on experience in the beginning. And that's not necessarily the best thing to do, especially at a startup, right? I would hire someone that had worked at a Fortune 500 company and they were in charge of business development at a Fortune 500 company, right? Well, business development at Fortune 500 and business development at a startup with 2 employees is a completely different thing, right? You don't have a lot of structure at a startup with 2 employees, right? You need to take initiative. You need to kind of find your own path, right? So after about the second employee that I hired based on experience, I realized, this is probably not the best decision moving forward. So after that, I basically decided not to put a title on anyone. So everyone that I hired, I said, listen, I'm not going to have a job description for you, right? I'm going to have a generic title. And what you need to do is you need to do everything necessary to help grow my business, right? You need to wear any hat necessary on any given day. So this way, we were a small team, we were an agile team, right? And we were also flexible, and no one really felt entitled, nor were they constrained to any specific role or job responsibility. So I think that was probably the best thing that I did. And I kind of still apply that to this day whenever we're launching a new product and we need to build a new team, right? I don't necessarily give the employees a job description. On the contract for formal reasons, I do. But when I present the position to them in person, I tell them, listen, you have to wear any hat necessary to be able to grow this division or grow this department, right? So that's probably the best mistake that I made and what I learned from it.
So you mentioned some training mistakes as well. For me, I know in our business, as we started to scale, you realize pretty quickly that unless giving someone a phone and a desk is not a great way to onboard them. I mean, we've made all those mistakes. What were some of the mistakes that you've made?
Yeah, so that's certainly what I did. I would hire someone and then I would put them on the phones right away or in sales or customer service right away. And that certainly wasn't the best thing to do. So we have a process in-house now. So whenever someone comes in, let's say on the sales team, they might they'll probably shadow a sales manager for about a month or 2, right? And then we would give them a test. And this is a formal test. It's probably a 3-page exam. And if they pass that test, then we would take them live on the phone with clients, and they would be customer facing, right? And then even after they're customer facing, they're still shadowing a sales manager. And then after that, once they reach their KPIs or certain benchmarks, they're off on their own. So the whole process takes about 4 to 5 months. And this is a lot better than just, sending someone into the weeds and they have to figure out on their own.
All right. And so what has the result been of that?
The result has been great. For the customer service side, on the customer end, it's been a lot better, right? They're not dealing with someone that is inexperienced or doesn't understand the product or the industry that well. And this also allows us to filter applicants and early hires a lot better, right? If they're not excelling early, if they're not picking up on things very early. we tell them, listen, this is probably not the best position for you. And if they have if they have a great attitude and they have a good work ethic, we'll find another position for them in the company. So overall, it has helped our sales and conversions a lot, just being able to have a more formal and lengthier onboarding process and a better, lack of better words, filtration system.
So reading between the lines of what you just said, it sounds like people that are a core values match for Shofur have an opportunity to switch jobs if what they're doing isn't the right fit. But people that are perhaps technically able but aren't a culture fit really don't have a place anywhere in your business. Is that an accurate way to paraphrase what you just said?
Yeah, that's 100% correct. Someone that's hungry and motivated and has a good work ethic, they can pick up the technical skills relatively quickly. And then even if they can't pick it up relatively quickly, we still give them a chance, right? So the core values are very important. It's really important to have a team that has cohesive core values. This way, they're working cohesively towards one common goal.
Let's talk about Shofur's core values, if we could. Would you be willing to share with us the values that you've framed the culture of the business on?
Yeah. So, just given the nature of the company, we were ranked 21st fastest growing private company in the US. So we've had rapid growth, right? And this rapid growth has come without any sort of funding. We haven't had any venture capital, any private equity money, nor have we taken out any loans, right? This has all been organic bootstrapped growth. We've just been reinvesting our cash flow, right?
Pretty impressive, by the way. That is a rarity at that growth rate to have no funding outside.
Yeah, thank you so much. So with that, we have limited resources, right? I think that the most limited resource is our time, but for us, it wasn't just our time; it was also money, right? So we had to be very agile. We didn't have the funds to launch a product and test it out, do A/B testing for several months and see if it would work out. We just had to figure it out relatively quickly. Otherwise, we were going to be insolvent and run out of money. So one of the core values is learning to be agile, in my opinion. Another core value is just being overall prudent. That's very important to us, as well as having a good work ethic. Most employees that worked at our company or still work, no one really works less than, I would say, 60 hours a week, right? I know our sales team comes in at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they might leave the office at 6:30 or 7 p.m. And then when they go back home at nighttime, they're still returning emails, right? So the work-life balance is not great, and that's why it's very important that they love what they do, and they also have a great team. They have a great team around them.
So when someone isn't a core values fit, how do you know that?
That's not a very tangible thing to know, right? It takes a little bit, right? Sometimes people might be shy, right? They might not open up right away. They might not feel comfortable in your company right away, right? So it might take a month to know. Sometimes it might take 3 months to know, right? But the main thing is that they're a team player, right? If they're contributing, right, or doing their best and they have the right attitude and they're putting in as much effort as possible, we know that they're a team player, right? When, let's say, they take a 2-hour lunch break, right, or they're just sitting in the corner by themselves, and we tried our best to warm them up, but they're just sort of indifferent or apathetic towards the company or the employees and their staff members. Then we usually have a talk with them, give them a warning, say, listen, this is what we're noticing, and this is a warning. It's also extremely important to be transparent right from the start and set the right precedent. So whenever we see a warning sign, right, it's important to stay in front of that and be as transparent as possible with that person and the rest of the team as well.
So let's take this up a level, with the benefit of what's now 4+ years of experience in building and leading the organization. Philosophically, how would you sum up your approach to the people side of your business as you look to the next phase of growth?
Yeah. So, I think the people are my business, right? I don't think my business is necessarily the product or the website, right? It's the people behind the business that are making everything possible. So, with the right team, in my opinion, everything is possible. So, I don't know if this is very philosophical, but when I came in, I thought that product was everything. I thought that having the right product and having the right service was probably 90% of my business. But then I realized that having the right people was probably 90% of my business.
And how has that realization impacted your approach?
Um, I'm a lot more careful on who we hire now, right? I have, we have a more thorough interview process. We have a lengthier interview process. No one gets a job offer probably, you know, with 2 or 3 interviews. They usually have 4 interviews, and they have to meet every single person that they'll be working with, and everyone has to like them. So we're a lot more careful on who we hire.
All right. Let's look at your rewards and recognition approach. When people are doing well or they're performing, above expectation, what's your approach to rewards and recognition? How do you single out people for a job well done?
Yeah. So positive reinforcement is very important, right? But it's not. There's several ways to reinforce positive behavior. Of course, there is monetary compensation, right? But when someone's spending 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day in the office, it's not just about the money, right? It can't be, otherwise they'd be miserable. So it's very important to just congratulate someone when they do a great job, to tell them that they've done a great job, and to tell the rest of the team what a great job they've done, right? And lead by example. It's on the other hand, when they make a mistake, right? It's important not to be too harsh, and just kind of analyze why they made the mistake and make sure that that mistake never happens again.
And flip side of that coin, when someone just perhaps chronically underperforming or just not getting it done, and there's someone you want to save, take us through the company's approach to working through tough situations with folks who may have a slow start or maybe struggling in a new role.
Yeah, so you have to figure out why are they struggling, right? So we have sort of a conversation with everyone on the team, right? Again, transparency is very important at our company, right? So whoever is having the problem, we would bring them in, would probably bring their manager in, and maybe another colleague or two, and just have an open conversation, right? Maybe there's things that someone is looking at a different angle that other employees aren't looking at it, right? So we kind of analyze the situation, and if this is a chronic behavior, we ask the employee, can you fix this? How can you fix this? What do you think you're doing wrong, right? It's also important to be, introspective and inward looking, and to have some sort of self-awareness, in my opinion, or for that employee. But as a boss and as a manager, it's also important to be, to have sympathy and empathy as well. So it depends. If it's a technical issue and they just can't fix this technical issue, and we've given them the chance to incubate, and they just can't perform, then we have a serious conversation with them. It might result in letting them go, right? But if there's something else lacking, if there's team chemistry lacking, or there's bad management lacking, then we might have to address their manager or the team leader as well.
Let's talk for a second about you and the role you're in. and how you're thinking about scaling the leadership team of Shofur. Of course, when you start, it's just you're doing it all. At this point, you can't possibly be doing it all. Talk about that transition. Who's around the leadership table now, and what does that look like potentially 3 to 5 years from now?
Yeah, of course. So in the beginning, I was doing everything myself, right? I was doing the sales myself, accounting, marketing, everything, operations. Now I've decided to delegate as much as possible, right? As a leader, you need to have trust in your employees, right? So I think delegating without trust is almost impossible, right? Also, if your employees feel like you're not trusting them, they're not going to perform as well, nor are they going to feel fulfilled, right? So, as a leader, my role has changed. My role is to provide as much trust to my employees as possible, right? For example, I'll tell them, listen, I need to focus on building this product. I'm going to work with the technology team for the next month. I will leave this, operation up to you. Please don't CC me on anything. And, if there's an emergency, it's important that, you deal with this on your own. I have trust and faith in you. So I've delegated everything now. Right now we have head of operations, we have head of marketing, we have head of sales, we have head of technology, right? And it's important that they fully understand the process and the business around them, so they can now delegate tasks to the staff that's underneath them as well, or working next to them as well.
So now that you've given away your job, I say this tongue in cheek, what are you doing every day, and are you having fun?
Yeah, no, I'm in the office every day. I still come here every single day. I work about on average 10 to 12 hours a day still. The main thing that I focus on is just is overall strategy, right? And coming up with new products, and just innovating and staying ahead of the curve, just building as many barriers to entry in this very competitive environment, right? So that might require working with the technology team closely and building new products, or that might require me doing a lot of market research and working with our marketing team, or our operations team, or my financial team.
So as we close out here in the final couple of minutes, I want to get a glimpse into what you're doing in your role. What book are you reading right now, and would you recommend it to our audience?
Yeah, so right now I'm reading a book from Ray Dalio. It's called Principles, and it's a great book. It talks about his economic outlook, but it's a lot more than that. It talks about just his overall business approach. So if you guys don't know who Ray Dalio is, he's basically a hedge fund manager, one of the most successful hedge fund managers in the world. And I really take on his approach, and have basically put the same approach into our company, and that's basically an approach of transparency. So it's very important to have complete transparency in our company. That's in my opinion the best way to be productive and move on from mistakes, and build your team. That's what I'm currently reading right now. I don't have too much time to read, honestly.
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, so Ray Dalio. This is the same hedge fund manager that is famously trying to automate the role of the manager in his company. Is that right?
Somewhat. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. I can probably get into it for about 30 minutes or so.
Okay. Well, we'll just leave it at that. Check it out. It's an interesting read for sure. All right. Closing question here. If you were to come back on this show a year from now, mm-hmm. and report to us on whether or not you successfully tackled the biggest opportunity that you have in front of you, what will you be telling us happened?
What will I be telling you happened? I think the biggest opportunity for us is just improving the way that buses are rented, right? So we probably have 1% of market share, right? For us, my goal is to get market dominance, and market dominance is 10% of the market or more. I'd love to get more than 10% of the market. And the only way possible to do that is by providing the best product and service out there. So as we move on and as we aggregate more and more data and we figure out how to improve this industry, I would love to come back in a year and I would love to tell you that we have essentially captured market dominance by improving our product.
That's the final word. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been learning from Armir Harris, CEO and founder of Shofur. Armir, thank you so much for being with us on the program today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
And that's a wrap for this week's episode of the Best Team Wins podcast, where we're featuring entrepreneurs whose exceptional approach to the people side of their business has led to incredible results. My name is Adam Robinson, author of the book, The Best Team Wins, which you can find online at www.thebestteamwins.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Best Team Wins podcast with Adam Robinson. You can find out more information about Adam and his book, The Best Team Wins, Building Your Business Through Predictive Hiring, at thebestteamwins.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.